welcome to this webinar about the people manager role in SAFe. I'm Mikael Broomé from ThinkFlow, and I'm very grateful to have leadership expert Dr. Steve with me today from Scaled Agile.
Thanks, Mikael. I'm super happy to be here. As we've talked about so many times at Scaled Agile, we have observed the challenges that managers have in adjusting in their role in organizations when that organization implements SAFe. So we are very grateful for the thought leadership that you've contributed to SAFe in your article on people managers.
Yeah, and in the process of developing this article, the two of us have had quite some discussions on this topic and yeah, got many new insights, and that's what we would like to share today.
Yeah, you know, I think a great place to start might be just to share with the audience why you decided to invest time on this particular topic.
Yeah, and yeah, during the last decade, I've supported quite a few transformation journeys based on SAFe. And among the challenges that I've faced, it's the conversations with the line managers that have touched me most deeply, actually. Like the conversation with Jessica. So here we have Jessica. She became the manager of a 20-person team a few years back, and because she had a passion for the product that they're building. She just loves to discuss how to shape this product and to make the best possible use of technology. That's what really gives her energy. But now things are changing. I mean, after attending my presentations on how this role is shifting, she is worried because her staff is already working in agile release trains and teams, and she's expected to take some steps back, and she feels conflicted in that because her bosses expect her to be updated on every detail. Especially when there are escalations and late deliveries. So in that situation, she's not really sure how she can step back and still be updated on every detail. She is still held responsible for this area. So this is hard. And to make things even worse, when I describe the role to her, it sounds to her like HR work, and that really doesn't interest her. So this is a hard situation, and she hasn't had a clear conversation with her manager on how to leverage her skills in this new setup. So yeah, feeling frustrated, lost, anxious is kind of her situation. And to me, this is a dilemma not only for Jessica. It's often kind of widespread in the organization and affecting many attempts to embrace agility.
Yeah, that's a tough scenario, and to be honest, as we've discussed, I've had this very same conversation with so many managers in different organizations. I guess the question we should ask is, how did we get here? Like, why do we see that adopting lean agile ways of working creates this moment of anxiety or lack of clarity or friction among those who have people manager responsibilities?
Mm. And I think to understand that, the concept of the dual operating system can help us. So this is where we have a network part here to the left, where we set up our agile teams and arts to give us the flexibility and innovation and speed that we need today. And then we have to the right this hierarchy part. This gives us the stability, and this is also where we find the managers with their responsibility for staff. And what is happening here is that as a manager, your people and many of your responsibilities is shifting into the network part. You may not have the same authority, and you may sense that your position and contribution here is somewhat diminishing. And I mean, feeling lost and anxious is kind of natural, I think, in this situation. So if you feel that I have two two messages basically for you. One being that, I mean, will this role change for you? Yes, it will. And is this role less important? Well, absolutely not, I would say.
For sure. And I think that sense of diminishment is really our perception, not the reality of the situation. Because when you think about it, many traditional managers in traditional organizations, I know you've experienced this, I've experienced this, right? You wear so many hats.
Mm-hmm.
And in the dual operating system, the reality is that several of those hats are now going to be worn by other people. When you think about product managers, you think about architects, you think about RTEs, the question really then becomes, what is the people manager left with in terms of the hat or hats that they wear, and what does that look like now? Well, in SAFe 6.0, we took the approach of, as your audience probably knows, using this metaphor of the responsibility wheel to express what every role in SAFe is all about. And Mikael, you took the same approach to answer this question for what does the role of a people manager look like now in SAFe?
Yes, I did, and this is what we see effective people managers doing. So we see that they are promoting employee well-being, managing talent, promoting growth, leading by example, and strengthening the team conditions. That's what they do, and you may see that some icons are not here in the wheel, and like organizing the work or managing the product backlog. And the reason being that those duties are now in somebody else's responsibility wheel.
Absolutely. So that's probably the first observation. But I think as our audience is looking at the responsibilities that people managers do have, they might think that, well, these responsibilities look very similar to what these managers have already been doing. So what's really new here?
Yeah, that's a fair question. They may look similar, but there are two key differences, I would say. One is that now they have more time and focus to really execute these duties. And the other is that the way how they execute it in the SAFe context is actually very different. So that is what I would like to elaborate on next.
All right. Well, that sounds great. Let's dive in and understand what each part of this wheel really represents that you came up with.
Yeah. So let's look at the first one here, promoting the well-being of the individual employee. That's what it's about. And what makes this so important, I think, is that people are our most important asset when developing great new solutions. We are in the people business, and I mean, there are other roles like Scrum Masters and POs, and they may work and contribute on this as well. But I mean, whose job is it really to make sure that people are feeling well? Because I mean, they may feel that they have a stressful situation at work, or they may have tough things going on at home, and regardless of the reason, I think it's really valuable for someone to feel that they have reliable access to somebody really caring for them. Guess what? That's your job as people manager. So that's what it's about. And I mean, is this new? Well, likely not. But you may not have had time to really do this in a good way. And now you should be able to take that time to reflect on how you can do this in the best possible way. So you can take time to sense the situation and to reflect on, well, if you observe body language in the team, is there does the body language match what people are saying? If not, you should probably have a cup of coffee with that person to find out how they're really doing. So that takes time, and that's very important work because they need to know that I'm their person to come to. I've got their back. I'm their advocate. So that kind of situation.
Right. So that means that as a people manager, you have more time to address a need that has been there all this time that maybe you didn't have time to really focus on because of all the other responsibilities that you had. Did I basically catch that correctly?
Yeah, that's true, and not just that actually, because we need to understand that not only is your job as manager here changing, the job for your people is changing too. I mean, if they come from a traditional project management environment, moving into SAFe, they are suddenly moving into a world of a very strong focus on getting things done in a rapid cadence. There may be peer pressure within the team, and I mean, the good news with that is that the team is able to deliver value consistently. So that's a great thing. However, there is a potential downside here, and that's about this relentless nature of work, meaning that there will always be a next item from the backlog to work on. There will always be something you can improve, and that can be stressful for people. So I think the need for somebody to care for you in this context is actually larger than ever.
Yeah, that's a great perspective. And so when you think about that, that's a good outcome from this shift, right? And hopefully the teams will be able to receive, an individual will be able to see the benefit of that. So the next
Yep.
part of the wheel you have is managing talent. And to me, that includes things like recruiting and making sure that we have the right people on the teams, on the trains. So what exactly is new about that in the context of SAFe?
Yeah, and that's about, I mean, to get the most value from the arts and the value streams, we leverage these principles of systems thinking and organizing around value. And to get the really good value of flow, we need to get this right cross-functional mix of expertise in every team. And I mean, to highlight what that means to a people manager, I mean, one example could be that, let's say that you have testers in your line management box, and whenever you have lost a person quitting in the past, the most natural thing might have been to replace that vacancy with the same skills. But in this context, you should team up with other people managers serving the same value stream to jointly figure out what is the most efficient use of this vacancy. It could be a different competence, like a UX person. So I think that is a difference here. So instead of optimizing for my specialty here, I'm part of optimizing the flow of value. So that's different.
That's a great insight. Not sub-optimizing to the local concern, but thinking more holistically. That's excellent. What are other differences regarding how you manage talent as a people manager?
Yeah, I would say that it's not only about considering the technical and domain expertise. You also have to make sure that you get the cultural fit here. So thinking about, I mean, is this a team person? Is this person open to experimenting and learning from failures? Those kinds of factors are very important here, I would say.
Excellent. Let's go on to the next one.
So yeah, and promoting growth. I mean, that also changes in several ways. You may have had these annual competence development talks and perhaps using input from like two sources, asking your employee and your manager. And in this context, I mean, with the speed of everything, you need to find ways to stay updated all the time. And in this context, there are some great sources that can help you. We have backlogs and product roadmaps, and they can help you to understand what is kind of the needs that we have in the future. And there are many leaders who can help you. I've seen people managers that have been very successful in building relations with people like Scrum Masters, POs, product managers, RTs, and that has helped them to understand the gaps in skills, regardless if it's about technology or domain skills. So that's key, and I think just as for recruitment, it's about collaborating with your peers here to optimize.
Absolutely. I think that's so critical to understand that what role that we teach in SAFe is focusing on this. The PO is not, the Scrum Master is not, RT is
Mhm.
probably not. I mean, they're focused on delivery, right?
Mhm.
So, having someone that's really looking ahead and saying, hey, there's a change coming, and we need to prepare our people and invest in our own people to upskill them, and that's the people manager's job. So, what else is changing when it comes to promoting growth?
Yeah, I think there is also a great opportunity to find new ways to make it happen. I mean, as a manager, you may have been the one kind of owning this development plan and driving the activities. And I think in this context, there's great opportunity to let go of that control and decentralize it to teams and individuals as much as possible. So you could be available there and be close and interested and simply ask, well, how can I help? What else do you need to grow as you like? So I mean, it's about having them to take as much ownership as possible also for their growth.
Absolutely, it really supports that autonomy, mastery, purpose that we learned from Daniel
Mhm.
Pink.
Mhm.
All right, let's try the next one.
Yeah, and leading by example, let's make sure that we understand why this is so critical. I mean, yeah, the most of you attending this webinar are probably experienced in Agile, and you've probably seen that. I mean, if we take these constructs in Agile, like user stories or backlogs or whatever, and implement them, that doesn't automatically make us better, faster. I mean, there are quite some changes in the way we think that we have to adjust as well. So, I mean, for example, to really be able to experiment and to work with smaller batches and get to a quicker flow, we need to change the way we think. We may need to abandon old habits like being busy with working on as many things as possible at the same time. So I think my experience is that most team members, they're quite skilled at this. They get trained and most of them actually get it. But their leaders don't always get that. So I think that's part of this challenge here.
Absolutely, you're focusing on one of my personal interest items, as you know, and one of the things I've always said to managers when we've had these conversations and about their struggles is that even if your responsibilities has shifted in your management role, you are still a leader. Your
Mm-hmm.
employees are watching you. They look to you to understand what behaviors are acceptable and what behaviors are not. So if you're asking the people that you lead to change, how are you demonstrating that you yourself can change and that you are adopting this mindset and behaviors that you're expecting them to adopt? And here's the thing, if you don't change, then they're not going to change either, at least not sustainably and not in a way that's going to last. And I love how you added this as one element of the wheel. It's why leading by example is just so critical, because that's how mindset shift happens. So what examples have you seen in the field of people managers really demonstrating this?
Yeah, I was in one large bank a few years back, and I was coaching a second level manager that was very open about her own agile journey. So she often shared how she used to reason, like striving to be busy with as many things as possible. And she also shared how she has shifted that into focusing on fewer things and to really get them done. So she was doing that, and she always seemed to have some agile book that she was reading. So she was really committed to lifelong learning. And I mean, when observing her, it was clear that, I mean, her curiosity and courage, of course, made her improve. So her performance improved. But not only that, I mean, having direct reports being people managers, of course, they wanted to follow her and also to find ways to grow, because they realized that that's the only option. That's what we are expected to do now. So that allowed me to have many effective conversations with them on how they can support their art as people managers.
That's a great story. reminds me a lot of similar examples that I've seen as well. So we
Mhm.
got one more spoke in the wheel. So why don't we go there next?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's strengthening the team conditions. And that is this art of engaging with the teams in the right way. And I would say that trust is really key here to get it right. I've seen managers that are showing full trust in their scrum masters and POs. So for example, when they get a question about the product, they consistently defer that to the PO. They don't. They resist the temptation to answer themselves. And when asked about progress, they refer to demos and Scrum Master. So that's the way to do that. And Steve, I know you have been inspired by the book from Gene Kim, Wiring the Winning Organization. What can that tell us about how to strengthen the team as a manager?
Yeah, thanks for that. It really is a great book. Highly recommend it to everyone. I actually had the opportunity to interview Gene about wiring the winning organization at the SAFE Summit Berlin in April when he was a keynote speaker. And in the book, he talks about this idea of the social circuitry of the organization. I think that's a really interesting term. And what he really means is the environment, the culture, how people are supported. It's the layers of leadership and management that really have the authority and the responsibility to create that environment. So it's about communicating clear intent, supporting organizational clarity, delegating authority, like we learned from Turn the Ship Around, and then supporting the teams by not jumping back in and taking back control. Now that requires trust, right? As you mentioned, it requires respecting that the people aren't always going to do things exactly the way we might do them, but that means we have to train ourselves to authentically, instead of taking back control, just be present, ask how can I help, and instead of telling them what to do, be ready to respond and unblock them using your position and your authority as a manager. What other patterns have you seen working, Mikael?
Yeah, in one large organization I supported, they had in this art in particular, I think they had what I would refer to as a psychological safety. So all the Scrum Masters, they were often meeting in their community of practice, and they invited the people managers into that to discuss the desired manager behavior. And the basis for that conversation was a simple one-pager, listing the behavior in two columns. So we had this is what we as Scrum Masters would like the manager to do for us. And this is what we would like the manager not to do for us. And my take on that is that the magic that happened is not due to that format. They had a good atmosphere there, and they had the openness that allowed them to have a great conversation. So I think that really helped those people managers to understand how should we calibrate our behavior to really be engaged in the right way to serve this art in the best possible way.
Yeah, that's a great example.
So time flies today as well, and I think approaching the end here, there is probably many of you here having this question on how do I get started with all this? What are some keys to really become successful as a people manager? So can you help us out there, Steve?
Sure, I'm happy to tackle that. As I've had this conversation with so many people managers in this situation, I always start with this. The very first thing is you have to decide if being a people manager is really what jazzes you. It's what excites you when you get up and go to work every morning. And if it is, that's great. You will have more time now in the dual operating system to be the very best people manager, the best people, as I like to refer to them, because now you don't have as many hats as you might have had before. But if being a people manager is not what you're shaped to be, and maybe that was the case with Jessica in your example there, Mikael, then
Mm.
you have to decide what does drive you.
Mm.
Is it the technology? Is it the product? Is it the interaction with customers? What is it that you love doing the most? Do you like creating something that delivers value and delights customers? Were you born to be a product manager? Were you born to be an architect because you love the technology? Are you a process person? And maybe being an RTE or an STE might be a better fit for you. So that's kind of the first thing. The second thing is, once you decide, okay, yeah, I am a people, I want to be a great people manager, then once you decide that's what you want to devote this phase of your career to, there's three more things we would suggest. The first thing is, you need to think about what decisions have you been making on behalf of the team that you can start delegating today. If there are things that you've held on to that aren't really in your role now, think about how you are going to empower and unleash the person who should do that work. What can you do to help them be as successful as they can possibly be taking on that responsibility? The next thing is, take a moment to think about how you are engaging with the people who report to you, who are in the Agile teams and in the arts and the network. Be honest with yourself. Look yourself in the mirror. Are you still trying to direct their work instead of letting them self-organize and self-direct? Are you doing the work that now belongs to somebody else, right? Trying to kind of step in the shoes of the product owner or the product manager? Or maybe you've gone the other direction. Maybe you've just sort of washed your hands and said, well, I don't have responsibilities anymore. I'm going to disengage completely. Now, if you're disengaged, you need to get back in there. Your people need you. They just need you to focus on the responsibilities that we've shared today and have you do the very best at them. Because if you're engaged too much, then you're not going to demonstrate respecting the other leader roles. And you really think about how you interact with them and with the team. And if it's a struggle, my best tip is just stand in front of a mirror every morning and practice saying, how can I help? All right? How can I help? Make that come from an authentic and genuine place. And then lastly, you have to be willing to invest in growing the next generation of leaders. It's great if you listen to this webinar and you read the article and you make all of these changes and you transform yourself into truly into a Lean Agile leader. But what happens if you move on? What happens if you do a great job at this and you get promoted because you did such a great job? Well, if a new leader comes in and takes your place without this same mindset, the same set of experiences, maybe they're stuck in the old ways of thinking and old ways of managing, they could destroy all the progress that you've made almost overnight. So now you can't necessarily keep that from happening, but you can certainly help raise the next generation of people managers that will come behind you, who understand what it is you've been learning and hopefully will manage the way that you've been learning to manage so that progress can be preserved. So think about, who are you mentoring? Who are you coaching? Who are you preparing for that set of responsibilities?
Yeah. Thanks, Steve, for those clear actions. We have a few more tips here at the end. So we have a bunch of books that are really on topic. Highly recommend them. They are referenced in the article. And then there are two, because I will continue to find ways to help people managers. So there is one opportunity here coming up soon, and that's I will hope to be able to set up this combination here of implementing SAFe to become an SPC and to have this extension with people manager at the end. So that's one opportunity, and the other one is for managers only, where we will set up an alpha remote workshop to really dive into this role, to exchange experiences between managers in the room and to have them get a chance to advance their understanding. So to read more about that, just go to that page. I will also add that in the chat soon. So that is with that, I think we are at the end, and with that, we really hope that you enjoy this webinar. We wish you the best of luck in applying these ideas, and thanks a lot for joining.
Thanks, Mikael, and thanks for your thought leadership on this. It's going to be a great benefit to the community.